Believe it or not, I don't think I've ever been as personally excited for a re-release as I was for Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the live-action Grinch film, which unsurprisingly celebrated its quarter quill 25th anniversary with a re-release in theaters. I've seen and reviewed my share of re-releases over the past few years, like Curse of the Black Pearl, Spider-Man 2, and Revenge of the Sith, all re-releases that generated their own share of undeniable excitement. But The Grinch was a bit more meaningful for me, as I was just 5 years old when this movie came out, and it was the second ever movie I ever saw in theaters. The actual first I ever saw in theaters was earlier that year in Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Now there's a movie no one's mentioned in the last few decades.
Thomas and the Magic Railroad. This summer, share the wonder with your family.
I'll save a seat for you.
And if you're curious, Rugrats in Paris was third, but I digress. The Grinch was the movie that sparked my imagination and love for movies, which still continues to this day. Now, I don't know if it would have had that same effect if I wasn't 5 years old at the time, but this movie just ignited a special feeling in me all those years ago, in terms of how it was created, the makeup effects, the sets, the props, the stunts. I mean, holy shit, this movie blew me away as a kid and left a long impact all these years later. Needless to say, the chance to see it again on the big screen was a can't-miss opportunity for yours truly. I saw it on a Saturday night at 6 p.m., decent-sized auditorium, and there was a good amount of people in there, although it wasn't exactly the same mega-packed experience as Revenge of the Sith earlier this year. In Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, a Christmas curmudgeon seeks to ruin the holiday for the town of Whoville. There's a lot to cover in this movie, but the centerpiece for why it is the movie it is because of Jim Carrey as the titular character. It's a delightfully manic, fun performance. The main portrayal of the Grinch prior to this movie was the 1966 Chuck Jones cartoon, which was wonderful, but the Grinch in that one was one ice-cold, grumpy son of a b****.
The three words that best describe you are as follows, and I quote, stink, stank, stunk.
That wouldn't have worked for what this movie was going for. I mean, you don't hire Jim Carrey if you're not going for a fun type approach. Although amazingly, it's not the only time he's played an iconic Christmas curmudgeon. But even though this Grinch can be funny in his antics, he does have those moments of meanness, nastiness, and even scariness that make him a great grump to see in action. What elevates the performance and makes it even more impressive is how it was done just beneath an avalanche of makeup effects. I feel for Jim Carrey when you hear about what this movie put him through, how it felt like torture doing the movie because of feeling like basically being buried alive underneath all of those makeup effects. While it may not have been fun to be underneath all that, it's amazing to watch and shows the wonders of practical non-CG effects when done right. You're damn right it deserved the Oscar for Best Makeup that year, which it did win. Not just the Grinch, but everyone in Whoville was impressive with those weird dog-like noses. They really went the extra mile here when it comes to all the extras you had in all of them with the costumes and the makeup effects. There is something off-putting about the noses on the human adult characters, as it does make everyone in town look like a bunch of mutant rat people to some degree, but it is accurate to the original Dr. Seuss look and helps bring the town of Whoville properly to life. You can do your best, but it'd be tough to imagine the film without it. It could have looked a lot scarier, though, if you look at the original concepts they were going to go with.
Some of the early tests that we did that were especially more Seuss-like were not for this movie. I mean, even though they were like trying to interpret Seuss designs, they seemed like a Twilight Zone episode. And it was a hard balance because it can be very grotesque, like moving someone's nose in a place where it doesn't belong.
I've just always wondered how the hell those actors were able to breathe through those noses. On a technical level, this movie is just genius. My friend stated it perfectly after the film was done, is that they just don't make movies like this anymore when it comes to the actual sets and props. Everything these days is just eager to throw actors in front of a blue screen, and you get a big CGI mess. All the sets and art direction are just beautifully Dr. Seuss. It's a shame they weren't able to keep the Whoville set on the studio tour at Universal Studios Hollywood, as some kind of walkthrough experience during Christmas time would have been incredible to go through. All of the technical prowess of this movie is what blew me away as a kid. It's the practical effects work on the makeup, sets, costumes, and props, like the Grinch's sleigh, are just outstanding. Even some of the CG effects on the scenery shots and some other moments look great by 2000 standards. My friend also pointed out one somewhat shaky moment I hadn't thought of before, and that's a shot of the Grinch and Max in the rocket-powered sleigh going down after the initial takeoff. It does have an obvious blue screenish type of look, but the scene is still so funny that I had never really noticed any shaky effects until now. Technical prowess in Marvel is just one half of a film like this. Once you get past the technical logistics, the big struggle is crafting a feature-length film story around a short and sweet kid's story. Dr. Seuss wrote all of those stories to be perfect kids' book length, not intending for an hour-and-a-half film to be made out of them. That's been the issue with Dr. Seuss film adaptations, whether live action or animated, is the padding of the story to make it an appropriate film length. The animated Horton Hears a Who was actually a quality Dr. Seuss adaptation, but even it was guilty of nonsensical time-wasting stuff happening just to fill time. Where this Grinch film deserves credit is crafting an actual meaningful story before the whole stealing of Christmas occurs, through giving the Grinch some decent backstory for why he hates Christmas. That whole flashback sequence was very well done and nicely implemented in how it was all framed around Cindy Lou doing her own investigating to who the Grinch was, which catalyzes her resolve throughout the rest of the film. As a quick aside, it dawned on me watching the flashback scenes on the big screen that Baby Grinch was the original Baby Yoda before Baby Yoda. But Cindy Lou's expanded story is some of the best work done here writing-wise. It's a very cute story, with her initially seeing the good in the Grinch, and then trying to help him find his long-lost cheer. Kids' characters, more often than not, can be train wrecks in movies, but she's one of the best ever done here. This was the young actress's Taylor Momsen's first role, and she was so good here. It made my heart grow 3 sizes to see the recent photo of her and Jim Carrey reunited 25 years later. Shout out to Max also, my all-time favorite movie dog. I think they found the right balance in between the Grinch being an actual somewhat friend to him, and then his share of Grinchy abuse. But the new characters to the story and the Mayor and Martha Mayhew were great additions to the story, with their dynamic and respective history with the Grinch working perfectly, and nothing being better than a good love triangle. Some of the stuff with Martha was the best adult-oriented shenanigans here. It was a weird but effective love story.
Hello, Martha.
Believe it or not, I actually think it's when the movie gets to the stealing of Christmas portion that it's at its weakest as a film. That's because once you get to this section, it's not about any real character writing or traditional story progression, but just a lot of visual gags of stealing Christmas in montage style, with this being where you get the most out of Anthony Hopkins as the narrator. Now don't get me wrong, it's fun and creative some of the visual stuff they do, but I thought the movie was actually at its best with its original sequences, like the Grinch's backstory, the Whovelation, or the Grinch wrecking town. They did pull off the whole Gotta Have It Mean One song very nicely. One section that was very impressive was how the filmmakers worked in the spoiler alert, even though it's been 25 years, but I was very impressed with how the Saving the Sleigh climax was incorporated here. For those who don't know, that sequence was not in the original book. It was first featured in the 1966 cartoon, where even back then they realized they needed some kind of climax, and it was especially needed here for a feature film. I think the best touch was making Cindy Lou part of that sequence, to where you really do feel something in how she changed the Grinch for the better, and the rest of the movie from that point is just magical. For everything I truly love about this movie, I have no choice but to call it legendary. Although for a movie like this, it'd be more appropriate to call it brilliant. The movie was naturally a big box office hit when it came out. Believe it or not, though, this film actually did not get the best reviews when it came out. With the collection of reviews it got at the time, a 50% from critics, and not the best audience score either. Anyone giving this a bad review can go f*** themselves. This movie is iconically hilarious, with its share of iconic moments and dialogue to support this. The jury duty moment in the post office, or when the Grinch is checking his schedule, and a share of clever jokes for older audiences, something I never picked up on until I was older.
Hey, honey, our baby's here! He looks just like your boss.
The producers involved in this film weren't able to replicate the same success a few years later with the live-action Cat in the Hat, which is infamous for a lot of reasons. I think it shows you gotta have a worthwhile vision for any adaptation of a source of material, and a quality director like the Grinch had with Ron Howard was sorely missing from that second Dr. Seuss live-action outing. More and more over the years, it feels like a higher percentage of audiences feel the same way I do about this Grinch film, with obviously it being a staple during the holiday season for films like Home Alone or Elf. But I think the easiest and biggest sign of this fact is the Grinch's presence at Universal Studios holiday season, aka Grinchmas, whether in Hollywood or Orlando. My first time experiencing Grinchmas was in 2023 in Orlando, where I only had time to see the Grinch stage show. But being at Grinchmas at Hollywood this year and seeing the merchandise, food offerings, and most importantly, the 90-minute f***ing line to actually meet the Grinch made it clear that many folks are like me and loving this movie.
Are we starting? Huh? What comes next? Okay, here we go. The humanity. Wait, don't wait. I forgot one little bulb. And here we go.
Something else that's helped the live-action Grinch in recent years was how bad the 2018 Illumination Grinch was. Just an absolute piece of shit. I don't think they'll eventually do 25th anniversary screenings for that one, and if they do, I'll burn down those auditoriums in Glorious Bastard style. Anyways, that'll do it for this review of the re-release of The Grinch. If you made it to the end of this review, thank you for watching.
Somebody's fabulous!